Before I begin my remarks, I want to acknowledge that I joined CBST not just on any Shabbat, but on the Shabbat in which we observe Transgender Day of Awareness. As a Jew, a rabbi, and a mother of a transgender child, I am dismayed, angry that we live in a world where transgendered and non-binary folks, especially trans women of color, have to worry about their safety on a daily basis. May the day come speedily in our days when we no longer need to gather to grieve lives tragically cut short, but instead honor the contributions of trans and non-binary folks and celebrate the many genders of the human experience, all of them reflections of the divine. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will and may it be our will, and let us say Amen. This past week, we welcomed a new Jewish month, the month of Kislev. And in a few weeks, we celebrate Chag Urim, the Festival of Lights. Just as we begin kvetching about daylight savings time and the early darkness of these evenings that can feel so overwhelming, our tradition reminds us, have hope. Light is coming just around the bend. Even if we cannot see it, we know and believe that it is coming. Do not be afraid, for together we can confront the unknown with hope and with possibility. 16 and a half years ago, I marched at Pride with CBST and completed my year as a Cooperberg-Rittmaster rabbinical intern. There are so many things that I've taken from this experience, and tonight I hope to speak to as much of them as possible. But above all else, it is this Torah of Kislev that I learned through CBST that has molded me and shaped my vision for Jewish communal life. It is the very notion that a Jewish spiritual community can be and should be a vehicle for moving us individually and communally from darkness to light, despair to hope, fear to determination. That spiritual community is not an escape from the pain of our hearts or our world. Rather, it is where we gain strength and resilience to meet and transform the world. And we do this through love, ritual, joy, music, humor, connection, and the pursuit of justice. And since that day so many years ago, I have been doing my best to create and shape Jewish communities of meaning and purpose. Synagogues, which alongside learning and culture and celebrations, we have the power to hold pain and struggle while bringing more joy, more justice, and more compassion to the world. First, through founding a synagogue, as Rabbi Kleinbaum mentioned, Kol Tzedek in West Philadelphia, and now proudly serving at SAJ, the Society for the Advancement of Judaism, and our new tagline, Judaism that stands for all, just uptown from CBST. My time at CBST gave me this vision for Jewish life. But equally importantly, CBST offered the intimate knowledge and experience of the unique complexity and joy of congregational life and leadership. See, I had decided that I wanted to be a rabbi at the age of 17. I had grown up in a suburban, Jewishly assimilated but affiliated household, and I was lucky enough to have fallen in love with Jewish ritual from a young age, despite the stuffy and unpleasant environment of my childhood synagogue, and much to the dismay of my parents who were loosely affiliated. My involvement with Jewish youth group as a teenager changed my life and sent me on a path to the rabbinate. And I always wanted to be a congregational rabbi. And I had even thought about starting a congregation one day. But the only problem was this. I had no idea what it was like to lead or even be part of a synagogue. I had left the non-egalitarian conservative synagogue where I grew up as quickly as I could after my bat mitzvah. I had been involved in Hillel in college, very involved, and an independent minyan in my 20s. but not the kind of intergenerational congregation I imagined one day leading. While studying at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, I had a few teaching jobs and service leading. I was involved in a startup CRRI as a member of the steering committee. But these experiences only gave me a window into the small slice of congregational life. As a Cooperberg-Rittmaster rabbinical intern, I was able to observe and experience virtually every aspect of congregational life, from all the holidays to life cycle to committee life and governance, chavarot to youth engagement, ritual life, adult education, social justice work, and services. And I had the opportunity to see the bonds among members and to feel what it was like to link arms on Friday night and sing Shalom Aleichem, a practice that I'm sure we all miss in these times of social distancing. Bottom line, I saw firsthand what was possible in congregational life. And as the intern, I also got to practice being a congregational rabbi, albeit with training wheels on, doing what rabbis do: pastoral engagement, leadership development, teaching, drashing, service leading, committee work, program planning, crafting ritual for members, leading chavarot and holiday programs, and more. And I got to do this under the mentorship and guidance of two of the greatest rabbis in the world, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum and Rabbi Ayelet Cohen. And I got to watch them as they guided gracefully the congregation with their vision and their tenacity. It is not an exaggeration to say that the experience and confidence gained from the internship gave me the skills and the chutzpah to take the small chavara that I was part of and begin to transform it into a new, radically inclusive synagogue. I began this work with a group of lay leaders immediately after my time at CBST. And within a few months, we launched the new West Philadelphia Synagogue Project. Inspired by my own passions and from my experience at CBST, we wanted the synagogue to be a place where social justice was central and seamlessly integrated. And the founding members soon named the congregation Kol Tzedek, Voice of Justice. I had always known that I wanted to welcome folks into the Jewish community that found themselves on the margins. And at CBST, I learned some vital and practical ways to do that. I learned to name and welcome all the kinds of people in the room: gay, straight, cisgender, trans, non-binary, believer, atheists, Jews, allies and friends, etc., to ensure that folks were seen. I learned to privilege the voices of the marginalized and to loudly and proudly celebrate all kinds of life cycle. And it worked. Folks who had never felt that they had a place in the organized Jewish community, and certainly not in a synagogue, came. Many, many LGBTQ folks in particular, and helped me co-create this dynamic, diverse synagogue community. I founded the synagogue in 2004, like I said, right after my internship, and proudly served there until 2015. One of the things that I am most proud of in my career so far, especially as a cisgender, straight, female rabbi, is that I founded a community that went on to hire a trans rabbi, Rabbi Ari Lev Fernari, as my successor, and that Kol Tzedek is a place where trans and non-conforming voices are centered and lifted up. And in the spirit of our Torah portion this week, which is Toldot, generations, we can see Kol Tzedek as a direct descendant of CBST in the list of Toldot. In the words of Rabbi Ari Lev Fernari, Kol Tzedek is the queer spawn of CBST. For the only rabbis that have ever served there are former Cooperberg-Rittmaster rabbinical interns. Myself as founding rabbi for 10 years, Rabbi Elisa Goldberg is the interim rabbi, and now Rabbi Ari Lev from 2016 to the present time. In 2015, I moved to CBST's hometown of New York City to become the rabbi at SAJ, the founding synagogue of Reconstructionist Judaism. I am blessed and excited to help SAJ grow and thrive in its next iteration, its next chapter, to help this congregation find renewed purpose as the synagogue approaches its 100th anniversary, which is also the 100th anniversary of the first American bat mitzvah in 2022. You will all be invited as we celebrate those milestones in this coming year plus. Leading an existing synagogue into a new phase of history is very different than starting a congregational culture, creating a congregational culture from the ground up. But once again, I could turn to lessons learned at CBST of what a dynamic intergenerational community could look like. And Rabbi Kleinbaum's visionary spiritual leadership continues to provide inspiration. In my second year of SAJ, I shared a vision with the congregation that centered 5 core values: Kehila, community; Limud, learning; Tzedek, justice; Tarbut, arts and culture; and Ruchaniyot, spirituality. We have begun implementing that vision, establishing new programs and traditions, growing cohorts and sub-communities within the congregation since. 2 years ago, I led the congregation on a branding exercise, which led to us becoming SAJ-Judaism that stands for all. In this light, we are working on becoming and being a community of radical welcome to Jews of color, LGBTQ folks, differently able, differently configured families, all kinds of diversity on the spectrum, and offering learning and prayer opportunities that are accessible to all. We are deepening our commitment to standing with and for those fighting for their dignity. And I am happy that through shared and overlapping social justice work, today I get to work with the CBST clergy, including Rabbi Marisa James, and also CBST members on issues like immigration, refugees, mass incarceration, and as Rabbi Kleinbaum said, housing and homelessness, which is to say that is actually a current and ongoing fight. The Lucerne residents still do not yet know their fate, and we are still fighting for their dignity and for them to be able to have a home. One of the things that I believe CBST members will be the most proud and excited to know is that I have created a rabbinical internship program that is modeled on the Cooperberg-Rittmaster Rabbinical Internship. 4 years ago, we were awarded funds to pay for an intern. These funds were given by the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College through the generosity of CBST member and founder of the Cooperberg-Rittmaster Intern, Bill Fern. And Bill, if you're watching, I cannot really give enough thanks for all the support of the interns. Because of the impact of CBST on my rabbinate, I was determined that this would not be a one-year program, but that we would continue to build our internship. So we fundraised and we also increased the visibility and responsibility of the intern. We have funding for 1 more year, but hope to make that funding renewable and make this a permanent feature of SAJ, which can then and now pride itself on training rabbis as CBST does. I want to end with my profound gratitude for Rabbi Kleinbaum for the invitation to be with you all this evening and for all that she does in the world and all that she models for me. I want to thank all the members of CBST, those who I knew back in the day and those who I have never met, those gorgeous and glorious humans that make up this utterly unique and amazing community. Thank you for showing me what is possible in congregational life. Thank you for being a spiritual community that helps us find our ways, even in the most challenging and unknown times, that allows us to recover hope and possibility, to find joy and resilience, and to remember that even if we cannot see it, there is a new future awaiting for us just behind the bend. We hold hands whether physically in person or spiritually on Zoom, and we walk together towards that future. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And please, please, please stay safe.